Ja me lähme viimase ettekande juurde. Nagu siin juba küsimused näitasidki, most of the pointed questions are addressed to the United States of America, and that's why I'm very happy that the US Embassy is participating in our event today, and I'm honored to ask here to have a floor Mr. Brian Frere, US Embassy Commercial Affairs.
Thank you, Indrek, and thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for being here today. I'm very happy to speak with you regarding internet freedom and the protection of intellectual property rights. These are two of our highest priorities at the State Department and at our embassy here. I didn't know you had a picture of me. As Secretary Clinton recently stated, there is no contradiction between intellectual property rights protection and ensuring freedom of expression on the internet. We are all stakeholders in an internet that fosters the arts and innovation while preserving our personal freedoms. That is why forums like today's event are so important. We must work in good faith and engage in honest debate, since we will have to join together to solve the challenges and seize the opportunities of this exciting digital age. As I said, I'm here to speak today about our efforts to support internet freedom and intellectual property rights protections. Unfortunately, I'm not an expert on ACTA, since the ACTA process has been handled by the U.S. government by the Office of the United States Trade Representative. I strongly recommend all of you visit USTR's ACTA website at ustr.gov/ACTA. There you will find the full final ACTA text, which was released in 2010. You will also find information on why the Japanese government initiated the process in 2005, and fact sheets illustrating what ACTA will and will not do. As the American and Estonian governments have noted, this agreement will help protect our two countries' innovators from international counterfeiting without the need of any changes to our own laws. Now, to intellectual property rights in general. I hope we can all agree the ideas and inspirations of our citizens fuel our economy and enrich our culture. They also help us meet global challenges from climate change to poverty, hunger, and disease. Today, because of advances in technology and falling trade barriers, information and ideas circle the globe faster and more freely than ever before. But the same trends have also increased intellectual piracy, from illegal file downloads to counterfeit products. Theft of intellectual property is a crime that erodes the incentive to create, a crime that poses a serious barrier to making legitimate products and services available to the public. The United States has made intellectual property a diplomatic priority. We recognize that the U.S. and Estonian economies are driven by innovation. Because of this, we at the U.S. Embassy, because of this, we at the U.S. Embassy in Tallinn work diligently with our Estonian partners to share best practices and highlight the importance of respecting intellectual property. I thought I was showing your presentation again because it's up on the screen. Sorry. The Estonian economy has made amazing strides in the 20 years since the end of the Soviet occupation, becoming one of the most tech-savvy countries in the world. This, of course, is exemplified in the nickname you've earned as Estonia. The flip side to this connectedness is a very high piracy rate. When people think of piracy, they usually think of American music and movies being downloaded illegally. However, this directly affects Estonia as well. I have met with a number of Estonian companies who are dismayed by how quickly their software appears on illegal download sites. Most of these products are highly technical, and honestly, I usually don't understand what they do. However, people around the world are stealing Estonian innovations after just a few months after they are unveiled. Additionally, you would be surprised how often potential investors mention Estonia's high piracy rate. It may be one factor of many, but nonetheless, it is something investors consider when they compare Estonia with other potential places to invest in Central and Eastern Europe. We also recognize that piracy is a two-way street. and that one way you must combat piracy is by ensuring access to legitimate download sites. To that end, Ambassador Polt reached out directly to Apple, to movie studios, and to the recording companies. We were successful with iTunes and look forward to repeating that success with other online retailers. Another U.S. government priority that often comes up during the broader IPR discussions is internet freedom. It has been 63 years since the adoption of the Universal Declaration on Human Rights. In that time, the United States has been at the forefront of pressing for the rights and freedoms of people everywhere, no matter where they live or where they are. Fortunately, this is a value we share with Estonia. As people increasingly turn to the internet to conduct important aspects of their lives, we have to make sure that human rights are as respected offline as they are online as they are offline. Sorry. After all, the right to express one's views, practice one's faith, peacefully assemble, and to pursue political or social change, these are all rights to which all human beings are entitled, whether they choose to exercise them in a city square or an internet chat room. And just as we have worked together since the last century to secure these rights in the material world, we must work together in this century to secure them in cyberspace. Over the past year, we have seen many online activists, unfortunately too many to name, that have been detained, imprisoned, beaten, and even killed for expressing their views and organizing their fellow citizens. This reminds us of the stakes in this struggle, and the struggle does not belong only to those on the front lines and who are suffering. It belongs to all of us. First, because we all have a responsibility to support human rights and fundamental freedoms everywhere. Second, because the benefits of the network grow as the number of users grow. The more people that are online and contributing ideas, the more valuable the entire network becomes to all the other users. In this way, all users, through the billions of individual choices we make about what information to seek or share, fuel innovation, enliven public debates, quench a thirst for knowledge, and connect people in ways that distance and costs made impossible just a generation ago. Delivering on internet freedom requires cooperative actions. We have to foster a global conversation based on shared principles and with the right partners to navigate the practical challenges of maintaining an internet that is open and free while also interoperable, secure, and reliable. I'm glad that this forum today is part of the global conversation. Because the advent of cyberspace creates new challenges and opportunities in terms of security, the digital economy, and human rights, we have to be constantly evolving in our responses. And though they are distinct, they are practically inseparable because there isn't an economic internet, a social internet, and a political internet. There's just the internet. And we are here to protect what makes it great. The United States wants the internet to remain a space where economic, political, and social exchanges flourish. To do that, we need to work together to protect people who exercise their rights online, and we also need to protect the internet itself from plans that would undermine its fundamental characteristics. In conclusion, there are pirates, predators, terrorists, and criminals on the internet, and they need to be stopped. Honest and open discussions like this forum today can help us do just that, without compromising the global network, its dynamism, or our principles. Thank you again for having me here today. I look forward to listening to the rest of the discussion.
Would you accept some questions if there are any?
Yeah.
Thank you for a very inspiring presentation. But actually, a couple of years ago, I did some research at Columbia Law School, and I didn't only concentrate on my studies, but I also looked around. But what struck me as a surprise was when I went to Chinatown, actually, it was full of pirated goods. Like guys approached me and said that, look here, I have Rolex, you can buy, you can see CD. And then I remembered the discussion which we had in Estonia when we had this notorious Kadaka market. That everybody pointed to us, said that, look, you have this bad market, what is happening? And then I thought, I see a very similar place in New York. But, would you care to comment on this nice place in Chinatown? Thank you.
The nice place in Chinatown. Counterfeit goods do remain a problem in certain parts of the United States. In particular, they're sold on the street in Chinatown and in other parts of New York. It's something that the police there work on, and unfortunately, I'm not I don't represent the New York City Police Department, so I don't know what kind of assets they allocate to that. But it is a problem, and it's something that we work on around the world, in the United States and elsewhere.
Askar Alas, Eesti Express newspaper. You said yourself, if I understood you correctly, that one way to combat online piracy is to make legal content more readily available on internet, right?
Yes.
As we have seen, for example, in yesterday's The Guardian, there was pointed out that about 1/5 or 1/4 of US internet traffic is Netflix, and the same amount of traffic in Europe is a BitTorrent traffic, which can be considered pirated content. And mostly Netflix is not available in Europe. Of course, it's not available in Estonia. And Apple iStore also opened very lately and reluctantly to Estonians, and it's not totally open, it's partly open to Estonia. So why has US been so reluctant in releasing online content legally, making it readily available to us? Thank you.
Well, I certainly wouldn't classify Apple's opening of iTunes to not just Estonia, but to, I think, 10 other countries in the EU this fall as reluctant. I, of course, am not a representative of Apple. I have talked about the issue with them, with some of their representatives, and it comes down to a business decision. They have to invest time and money in opening up new stores everywhere, and I don't know why they choose certain countries in a certain order, but I invite you to contact Apple and ask them yourself. As far as Netflix goes, I've actually been tasked by Ambassador Polk to draft a letter for him to send to Netflix to encourage them to open up to Estonia. It was suggested by a reporter recently, and we had not thought of Netflix before. We have contacted a number of studios, the Motion Picture Association, Recording Association. Netflix hadn't come to mind. I guess I've been overseas too long.
Hello. Well, the previous speaker advised me to ask the question that I asked him to ask it from you. So I will do it now. For me, this relation between software patents and freedom of speech is sort of strange because, for example, the patent buying with one click, which I think we've all heard of, this is a very bizarre thing. It's almost like taking a patent for a detective novel. So what do you think? Does software patents, do they restrict freedom of speech or not?
I'm not a patent lawyer or a copyright lawyer. It's my understanding that software is copyrighted, not patented, but I don't know, it could be patented as a business process. I personally don't believe that patents inhibit freedom of speech. As Secretary Clinton said, enforcing intellectual property rights does not contradict freedom of speech or freedom of expression. If you get into more of the details about exact patent protections, how long they should be protected, and how they could be used by others, then that's more of a legislative debate than a foreign policy issue. So I'm not an expert on it. So.
Peeter Matsküla, strictly independent, speaking for myself only. You mentioned certain potential investors' concern about Estonia's high piracy rate.
Yes.
In the light of Y Combinator's recent ban on money coming from supporters of SOPA and PIPA, Could you cast some light about what sectors these concerned investors come from?
Okay. I should say first I don't know anything about Y Combinator, but the sectors that have raised the piracy issue with me are usually in the ICT, information communications technology, those sorts of American companies. So, and it's like I said, it's one issue that they consider when they do a tour of Estonia and Latvia and Lithuania and other countries in Eastern Europe. But it is important. And if you look at different rankings by different groups of piracy rates around Europe, you'll see where Estonia ranks, and it's about the same as Latvia and Lithuania, but below some of the other countries that you're honestly competing against.
Okay. Now, thanks again, Mr. Frere. And if I may, to give you some diplomatic advice, always, when you speak about piracy in Estonia, you have to mention that it's even worse in Latvia. So, whatever the facts. Me oleme esimese etapi läbi käinud ja siiamaani välja jõudnud, nüüd tuleb vaheaeg. Me oleme küll natukene graafikust ajalises mõttes maas, aga kvaliteet aja puhul me ju numbreid ei vaata. Nii et väljas peaks ootama meid ka kohvilaud ja suure vaevanägijad ehk need, kes on ettekanded pidanud, neid juhatatakse meie väikese konverentsimeeskonna poolt ühe sellise toekama laua juurde, kus saab natukene ka ajutegevuseks vajalikku toitu. Aitäh kõigile!